All right. Well, I had done something I'd never done before. I guess on this phone, it's not as clear when it isn't recording, and it had flipped off of recording several minutes ago. All right. So we're gonna read this whole article again. This is the Lift for All newsletter, June 2024 podcast. First article is called "What Music Means to Us." While driving to Alaska, I knew that there would be sections with no cell service. After all, it's a 72-hour trip through some of the most wild parts of the US and Canada. Currently, my personal phone is Verizon and my work phone is AT&T. So for the first 3 quarters of the trip, I was relieved to find that between the two phones, I was able to have service almost all the time. While I was able to have such good service for the first 3,000 miles of the trip, I have to admit I was a little spoiled. I'd zipped through all my downloaded stuff and was streaming various things to listen to while driving. So even when the lack of service began, it didn't seem so bad. I would have service, lose it for 20 or 30 kilometers, then get it back. During the times I didn't have it, my audio would play what was loaded, and then I'd listen to what was loaded, and there were no gaps. Then suddenly, in British Columbia, I had no service at all. I kept waiting for it to come back, feeling especially guilty since my last text to my parents had been, "Running into some service issues, I'll text you in a few hours," which I had sent several hours before. Okay, so here's a side story podcast. Listeners get a little bonus. I had totally imagined my mom freaking out and texting me like 18 times and getting my brother to text me and my dad to text me. And then when I finally did have service again, I had one text from my BFF and that was like it. So I was anxious about this for no reason. After I was without service for 3 hours, I realized it might not come back for a while. I was surrounded by the most beautiful landscape I had ever seen in my life, but I still found myself bored as the hours with no service continued. I started composing a list of things to look at when I got service again. Are bears a keystone species? How many provinces does Canada have? Is it Yukon or the Yukon? Eventually, these shifted from curiosity thoughts to anxiety thoughts, and then I realized I needed to find an outlet. While I had downloaded Spotify the day before I'd left, I'd put off downloading much offline music, not realizing how suddenly I would go from full service to no service. While looking at the one album I had downloaded, I realized Spotify allows you to play any music you had recently listened to, even if you hadn't officially downloaded it. Because of this, I suddenly had access to 6 full albums, a very wide range from System of a Down to Get Set Go to Epic the Musical. These 6 albums got me through the next 12 hours of driving with no cell service. Um, if you want the full list, let me know. It was pretty funny. During this time, I was again reminded of how music grounds us, how much it connects us, and how much music fills us when we're alone. Because my days are filled with teaching and listening to music from teaching, I don't listen to much music on my own, not as frequently as I should, and I often forget to appreciate it. This summer, we're all in different places with our learning and practicing journey. Some families have elected to have practice breaks, while other families are hard at work. And I ask that we all do one thing together, and that is find times to express gratitude to the music in our lives. Find times to listen to music, whether it's classical, classic rock, musicals, metal, or anything in between. Find time to appreciate the music around us, in movies, games, and even the music of nature. Music finds us in the times we need it most and builds a deeper connection. Music helps us build a deeper connection with ourselves. P.S. Black bears are a keystone species, if anyone's wondering. And yes, I saw 16 of them. And 3 grizzlies. Lift School of Arts Are For All new phone number. The official phone number for both Lift School of Music and the Arts Are For All is 716-906-0192. Please try to use this number from now on, even if up to now we've used a different kind of communication like Facebook Messenger. This phone will just be used for piano, so it will be off when I'm not teaching, doing paperwork, or working. That's a complete lie right now, because right now it has service about half the time when my other phone doesn't. So right now I am actually using it as my social phone, but for the purposes of the rest of time, it will be used just for work. So you can text anytime 24/7, 365 and not worry you're bothering me. It'll help me find a better work-life balance as well. If we're friends and you want to reach out to me for social reasons, feel free to text my old number, but if it's at all related to piano, text the work number. If you have any questions about this, text me on the work number anytime. P.S. As this is all new to me, I might mess up and text you from the wrong number. I've already done it. So no worries if you do the same. I already did it once, and the other note I do have is often forget that the time zone is so different. It's 4 hours, and I've never been anything over 3. So I did text somebody at like 9:37 last night, and I felt really bad about it. So you don't have to worry about it if you're texting my work phone, because if I'm asleep, it'll be off. Summer Studio Recitals. The 2 dates for Summer Studio Recitals are July 20th and August 3rd. This event is considered one of the 4 required events of the year, so all students are strongly recommended to sign up for one of the dates. The recital will take place at Mark Custom Service at 10815 Bodine Road, Clarence, New York. All participants will be scheduled in approximately 20-minute groups. You may request a morning or afternoon spot. However, specific requests may not be able to be accommodated. Somebody once was like, I need to go at 10:20, and that just couldn't work. Students will perform one piece and watch peers perform as well. After the recital is concluded, students are welcome to stay and perform their piece again and again and again if needed, so that all students leave the event happy with a performance they're happy with. The folks at Mark Custom Recording then work on making a high-quality, professional-level recording that is emailed to students within a few weeks of their performance. At the end of each recital, students receive a goodie bag and snack, although food is not to be eaten at the venue. Please let me know if you have any questions, and then there's a link to registration. I do have a good number of registrations. Please make sure that you get those in. July through October term registration. The registration for the July through October term ends June 20th at midnight. Late registrations will likely not be accommodated since the schedule is changing, and I can't wait for people to fill it out when I'm changing the schedule completely. Then there's a link for the LIFT registration and the Arts Are For All registration. In registration, there are tentative schedule days. These dates very much depend on how many students register. The background, I decided to give the background about it so that people aren't wondering, because I'm a curious person, so I assume a lot of you are curious people. I know some of you are curious people. So the reason is, if I'm working 5 days a week, I'm going to spread my days out so that I'm teaching 3 days one week, 2 days the next week, 3 days, and that gives me more time to study. If I can fit all my students to 3 to 4 days a week, this is my goal. This is where I can appreciate students going on a Sunday, especially if I'm here. If I end up going to school in Alaska, I will be able to cram like 13 or 14 hours of students onto Sundays, which is something I've done since I started teaching. This is not something unique. One summer, I was just telling my friend this, one summer I crammed all my students into 2 18-hour days, and then I had like 5 days a week to do stuff during the summer. But this is not like a unique new thing. Anyway, I will ask the same questions about the term evaluations and homework and practice assignments. Please let me know if you have any questions about those questions, especially if you have questions about the type of assignment you receive. I then ask everyone to check off the days and times they're able to have lessons. Please check off as many as you can. While scheduling will be done first come, first served basis, I cannot guarantee that I'm able to accommodate everyone, especially those with extremely limited availability. I don't plan on changing the schedule again in November, so please try to find a time that works for you. I'm asking all families to review the term notebook before completing registration. That's the picture book. It has a great deal of information, so please feel free to take your time and maybe download it to look at later. After registration closes, you will receive a registration confirmation letter that has important information: when your lessons will be, how long, the schedule, and for LIFT students, payment information. Please let me know if you have any questions about registration. Please note that I will only be sending out these letters after the registration closes, since I don't know when everyone's lesson is going to be before that. So just don't expect it right away. A quick note on the newsletter. Unfortunately, since I'm finally on a new computer, I didn't have the newsletter template with me. I meant to send it to me and I just sent it to myself and I just forgot. So the most recent newsletter template I had was from July 2022. When reading through this newsletter, I found a few articles I want to run again. So if these look familiar to you, you have a good memory. Reprinting articles is a good refresher for families who have been with the program a long time and a good way to share information with new families. Additionally, while sometimes I do say stuff better the 4th or 5th time, I sometimes like the way I say it the 1st or 2nd time. Lastly, I think reading the same exact words years apart resonates better with some folks. So when school starts, I might reuse some articles. However, I will always have new things to say. Reading and sight reading. If they enjoy it, let them read it. First printed in July 2022. When my mom was a teacher in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, while many teachers pushed their students to read to the best of their ability all the time, my mom encouraged parents to provide all different types of books for their children and allowed students to read anything that made them happy during class. She was the same as a parent. She didn't mind that I would take a college class and then head to the library to pick up a Babysitter's Club book, or that I was into Star Wars books over any of the classics. My mom is not and never will be a sci-fi person, so the allure to her was a mystery. She would always say, if someone likes reading something, then they're getting something out of it. The same is true for sight reading. When your child enters book 2, the goal is to have them sight read as many extra stuff as possible. This might include movie soundtracks, pop songs, church music, music from video games, TV shows, and even TV ads. There are hundreds of thousands of piano pieces online written at a variety of different levels. On a total side note, kids these days will never understand how easy they have it. When I was in high school, I wanted to sing a song from a band. I'm not even going to name the band. It's embarrassing. And my voice teacher said I could only sing it if there was sheet music for it. On one very long weekend later, I'd written out my own music from listening to it about 60,000 billion times. I do have a really funny number in the newsletter if you want to look at it. It's just me slamming the number keys for like 5 seconds. My voice teacher let me sing it. Nowadays, the song has been transcribed about 200 times and is easily available as a piano song online. Here's the important part. If it gets your kid sight reading, it doesn't matter what level it is. Even if it's a big note or has the notes written in, it doesn't matter. These kinds of pieces help your child learning rhythm. If your child can sight read from a book 5 piece easily, this just had this happen to a kid I know didn't practice during the week. I remember the kid. This kid still takes lessons. If you're the parent, you can laugh. And this kid wants to play a piece from a book with bright colors designed for elementary aged kids. It's fine. If the notes are easy and the rhythm is easy, then maybe they're focusing on the sound, the balance between their hands, and the dynamics. But really, each time they sight read a piece, no matter how easy it is, they're learning something, so please encourage it. Your job as the parent, especially in the summer, is to provide them with easy access to practice sight reading music. Please let me know if you need help finding something, but it is much easier to find things online now, thankfully. Your goal is to get them to love sight reading, and just like with regular reading, they won't love something they're always struggling with. So embrace the excitement of whatever they want to learn this summer. Super quick note, some kids will want to play something super complicated. This can be a sticky situation, as playing something above their ability can not only be frustrating, but can be detrimental to technique and cause regressions in their playing and even hand injuries. If you feel like something's too hard, feel free to ask me and maybe we can find an easier version of the piece. About the Learning Concepts videos. All students who are not taking a practice break will have a weekly Learning Concept video either at the end of their practice chart, emailed, or texted. These videos range from 1 to 10 minutes, and they go over a variety of different concepts from technique to musicality. For example, there's a video on why it's important to keep left hand quiet, another video on why it's important to practice finger numbers, a video on pedaling, and advanced technique videos. There are also videos on specific pieces, such as a video on the dynamics and phrasing of Minuet 2, or a video on which hand has the melody in Happy Farmer. Some of these videos are for beginners, where some videos are for extremely advanced students. These videos are designed to be watched at any point during the week, though I recommend watching them on your lesson day just to make sure they get watched. They don't need to be watched at the piano. As a matter of fact, you can watch them with your child in bed, at the table, in the car, or yes, at the piano as a break from practicing. I do recommend watching them with your child, even if your child is older, as they can be interesting and helpful for you to understand as well. Feel free to text any further questions you have. Well, I ask that everyone watches their weekly video at least once. You're always welcome to watch it more than once as well. I welcome feedback on these videos. Please tell me if there's anything that you especially found helpful or learned or really liked. It really helps me when deciding on future topics and deciding which videos to assign to which students. If there's any videos you felt were too much review or too complex, please let me know as well. My plan is to expand the video library and assign videos any week there are no lessons, other than holiday and break weeks. Break weeks I think of as like the week after a big event or something like that. A week that it makes sense to not focus on piano as much. Truthfully, some of the videos have even more content than what we would cover during a lesson, so they can be really valuable if learned correctly. Yeah, that's kind of a secret. I don't want anybody to think about that too much. But yes, the videos can be incredibly valuable. Watching the Learning Concept videos with littles. So this is the column that's designed for parents of students ages 6 and under, but it's often helpful to everyone. Well, I so far do not have any Learning Concept videos designed for students specifically 6 and under. I've sent the parents appropriate videos to watch. If appropriate for your child, depending on the age and what kind of day your child's having, your child might be interested in watching them as well. While I do encourage parents to watch the videos in front of their child so that children pick up much more than we give them credit for, I do not recommend forcing your child to sit still and watch, especially if they're having a tough day. Instead, explain to your child that you're watching an important video about piano. Invite your child to watch with you or play quietly in the background. If they do want to watch with you, you may provide a sensory toy, such as a Pop-It, Play-Doh, or small toy, modeling good listening skills, which means using a fidget toy yourself if that helps you listen better. Encourage your child to ask questions, pausing the video to discuss anything. Try to connect the video with what you are learning to your child's playing. If your child becomes disengaged, pause the video or watch another time, or watch it yourself if you need to. The next time you're practicing with your child, bring up the video in a positive way. Always let me know if you have more questions. Model asking good questions for your child, like saying, "I'm not sure, let's find out." 2 teachers, when it works and when it doesn't. First printed July 2022. A big topic of conversation on my piano teacher Facebook groups has been what to do when a child has 2 piano teachers. Actually, it's still a big topic of conversation, which shows how important it is, because it's 2 years later and we're still talking about it. Some teachers believe that students should only have 1 teacher and are making a huge mistake by having multiple teachers. One teacher even compared it to having more than 1 spouse. Other teachers can believe it can be beneficial to have multiple teachers because the student is exposed to more than 1 style of music. Even teachers who claim they all have the same style have a style they're stronger with and more comfortable with. Even teachers who claim they teach all styles have 1 style they're stronger and more comfortable with. But I want to add, even teachers who teach the same style have different ways of teaching it. Like, I have friends who teach Suzuki who teach very differently from me. I don't know any 2 teachers who teach exactly the same. I'm between those two extremes. While it can be helpful in some situations, there are other situations where it can be detrimental to have two teachers. One helpful situation is when you have a practice teacher. This teacher is usually a beginner teacher or a high school or college student, sits with their child and goes through their assignment exactly. I used to have a practice teacher on and off growing up, and I have had students that have used them with success. The practice teacher is just taking the place of the practice parent. If you use a practice teacher, I am very happy to communicate with them and explain anything. A situation where it can be helpful seeing a second teacher is a teacher that is using a completely separate method and style of playing. For example, seeing a teacher to learn jazz, or to learn church music, or to learn rock music. This only works if A, the student practices what is expected from both teachers, and B, neither teacher is pushing the student beyond what they are capable of doing, leading to poor technique or injury. A detrimental situation is when a teacher is learning the same method from multiple teachers. This can be confusing and frustrating. Something that can make any situation detrimental to either teacher is when the student is taking lessons from two teachers but doesn't practice for either of them. This is twice the amount of money paid, twice the amount of frustration during lessons. I would encourage you to avoid this. Another thing that can make any situation detrimental is when the teachers use conflicting technique. For example, some teachers encourage moving the head when playing. I do not. Hearing things differently can be frustrating, especially for a beginner. For advanced pianists, such as those going to college for music, the last rule does not apply, as they will hear much conflicting technique and information in college anyway, and they will have enough of a foundation to figure out what works for them. Why is the last rule different for advanced pianists? A great example here is martial arts. As you probably know, there are tons of different types of martial arts. If you signed your young child up for karate and taekwondo, they would be super confused. However, if your teen had a black belt and 2 stripes in karate and wanted to learn Muay Thai, they would likely be fine. Would you ever have your child try another teacher? Why or why not? 10 things to say other than slow down. First printed July 2022. Something that will cause a child to shut down immediately is hearing a parent remind them day after day to slow down. Often, parents and teachers say it so much that it just becomes background noise. Here are some alternatives. Number 1, can you play this at a sloth or snail or seahorse speed? A fun way to do this is show your child different pictures of animal every day. So if you Google this, you might be surprised. Number 2, how slow do you think you can play this without making mistakes? Number 3, can you show me practice speed for this piece? Number 4, could you try playing this and saying the finger numbers at the same time? This is a great drill to do once in a while if your child knows the piece well. You could also have them say the note names. Another variation is to have them say D whenever they play a D, and then a G whenever they play a G. Trust me, this will slow your child down. Number 5, what can I do to help you play this slower? Number 6, do you want to try taking some deep breaths and trying again? Number 7, do you want to do animal counting? Animal counting is where the practice parent says the name of an animal for each beat of the song. We usually use the word buffalo. Text if you need a demonstration of this. 8, what words would you like me to use to help you play at practice speed? 9, would you like to make a sign to remind you to play at practice speed? Then you can point to the sign when you think they're playing too fast. 10, why do you think it's important to play the piece slow? And then I ask, why do you think it's important to help your child say slow? How does your child react when they hear the word slow? Are there any other words that from an area of your life that are meant to help you but immediately trigger a shutdown? Mine is clean. Genesee County Fair Talent Show. The Genesee County Fair Talent Show is July 20th at noon in Batavia, New York. It is a completely optional non-studio event that's open to everyone from any talent. People are divided into tiny tots, under 7, mini 7 to 12, maxi 13 to 19, and adults 20 and up. The event is free, as is your admission to fair. If you have a talent, even if it's a small back burner type talent, this is a time to show it off. The talent show is very low key. One year, the winner was a kid who went on stage wearing muck boots and played a piece he had composed himself. Participants of all levels will find themselves being applauded and receiving goodie bags. Feel free to sign up for performing anything in piano or anything else. You can perform up to 3 times as a solo, duo, and or group. Here's the registration. Anyone registered by 7/13 will receive a goodie bag with treats at the end. Winners will receive a small cash prize. Schedule a reminder. The schedule will be released after registrations are in. Please fill out your registration as soon as possible if you're planning to continue to help this process move along smoothly. Very tentative lesson dates are listed on the registration. Congratulations to Michael for finishing book 2 and Declan for finishing book 1. All right. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to text that work number anytime.